Have you ever invested tons of time and energy into creating the perfect product or service, but you're struggling to communicate its value to your audience? This episode will teach you how to fix that by meeting your audience exactly where they are in their buying journey. Hello, and welcome to Becoming Burnout Proof, the podcast designed to help women entrepreneurs like you simplify your business and manage your stress so you can increase your income and your impact without burning out. I'm your host, Meg Bingham, a marketing strategist and certified stress management specialist. And today we are talking about your human. I know. Any coaching program or course you've ever done probably covers your ideal client avatar. I know you're over it. But the reason it comes up all the time is because it is so important. Whether you use the term avatar, ICA, target audience, dream client, whatever, I like to call it your human. The more you know about this person, the easier every aspect of your marketing and offer creation will be. If you haven't sorted out your human yet, awesome. This episode will be a great kickstart for you. If you're thinking about skipping this episode because you've done it already, been there, done that, don't worry. We're going to cover some aspects of a customer profile that I don't think we talk about as often as we should. First, when we are considering who our human is, we tend to start with demographic information because that's pretty easy, right? We start with their gender, their age. Are they married? Do they have kids? Where do they live? Do they work? What social media platforms are they using? Those types of things. Then we need to go a bit deeper and take a look beyond demographic information and look to psychographic information. We want to understand how their brains work and what they're thinking. What do they value? What does an increase in status look like to them? Now, the first time I was in a training and I heard this, we need to consider the increase in status. That sounds so shallow, right? Like my clients are not status seekers, but psychologically, we make buying decisions based on an increase in status in one way or another. So we need to understand what that looks like to them. How is your human talking about their problem? What words are they using? How are they feeling about their problem? How do they talk about the solution? And what do they believe the solution to be, if anything, yet? What are they already trying to solve their problem? What have they bought? Things like that. Okay, we can go on and on with this. There are tons of ICA worksheets. I even found a chat bot that exists to help you sort this out. There's all kinds of resources for this. I have some inside of the Work-Life Harmony Club as well. It can be helpful to create a customer persona, thinking of a specific client or creating your own imaginary person, giving them a name and a whole backstory, answering all these questions. It's a very helpful exercise. But for today, since those things are readily available elsewhere, I want to talk about an aspect of understanding your human that isn't talked about quite as often. And this is their level of awareness or their understanding of the big problem. Okay? So the stages of awareness are not a new concept. They were outlined by an advertising pro, Eugene Schwartz, back in the 60s. There are 5 stages of awareness, which is how aware your human is of the problem they need to solve, the solutions available to solve it, which products might help, and why they should choose your product in particular out of all the available options. So the 5 stages are unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Understanding these levels of awareness and being very specific about which stage you are targeting with your services and your messaging is super important. When you understand your human's frame of mind, it makes marketing your products and services so much easier and exponentially more effective. Let's take a look at each of these stages really quick. All right, first, your unaware audience. These folks are unaware that they have a problem or a need, and they're not actively seeking solutions. They could also be ignoring the problem, or it's just not registering on their radar yet. Most of the time, we're actually not marketing to people who are completely unaware, at least not in the online services space. It's more difficult to sell to these people because there's so much education required. You basically have to show them they have a problem first, and that is just potentially a very long sales cycle. If you were working to target unaware humans, your content would focus on showing them they have a problem. This means providing education, storytelling, and showing empathy for pain points they might not realize they have yet. One kind of silly example of marketing to an unaware audience that comes to my mind is the infomercials that used to be on TV late at night. For any youngsters who only know streaming platforms, these infomercials were a thing. They probably still are. And the salesman with crazy, super high energy would show a mom trying to slice a loaf of bread or a tomato, and the thing just gets totally smashed up, like obliterated. And the mom's so frustrated, and she throws a knife down, and dinner is ruined, right? So then the salesman introduces an electric bread knife or a knife sharpener, whatever his product is that's going to make that situation better, right? Someone watching the infomercial might not have realized how annoying their dull knives were until they saw the ad, and that triggered the thought and made them realize it was a problem. Man, I hate when my tomatoes get smushed because my knives aren't sharp enough, right? Like, I hadn't thought of that before, but now I'm not the only one. This is an annoying problem. Usually, if you're creating content for an unaware audience, you're not going to sell right away. So maybe that's not the best example, but it's one that came to mind. For a problem aware audience, these are people that are aware they have a problem and they're sort of exploring it. In this stage, they're starting their research. They have questions and they're just trying to learn more about the problem. Problem aware people are probably turning to Google, YouTube, Reddit, maybe social media to ask their initial questions, right? So, your messaging strategy for problem aware people, you need to understand how your human is talking about the problem. What words are they using specifically? Two tools that I use for this are Answer the Public and SEMrush, SEMrush. They are keyword research tools that will show you the search volume of your keywords. Focus on highlighting the problem in your content and empathizing with their pain points. Everyone wants to feel seen and understood. You can also use your content to begin to answer some of their questions and create the desire for something better, help paint that picture for them. The next stage of awareness is solution aware. This person is very aware of their problem. They've researched the problem. They understand what's wrong. They know there are solutions available, but they're not sure which one is right for them, so they are in research mode. The messaging strategy to solution-aware people is to speak directly to the solution and position yours as the best fit. This is where you'll want to emphasize benefits of what you offer and dive into your unique selling propositions. This is where case studies and testimonials can do some of the heavy lifting for you, but you really want to highlight how your solution stands out from others doing similar things to what you are doing. The next stage of awareness is product aware. These people are still researching. They know your product exists or your service exists, but they are not completely convinced it's the right fit. But they're looking at you. They've got eyes on you. They've maybe seen your landing page. They're watching your content. They're following you, right? They know you're here. They're starting to trust you. They're just still doing research. So your messaging strategy for a product-aware audience is to focus on the specifics. Focus on your framework. Do some education on that, okay? If you help people achieve a specific result, show them the steps behind that. Testimonials and case studies, again, here are very, very important. You can also address any objections they might have. Show exactly how your product works for them and how it's different from competitors. This is a good stage to use some ethical urgency, which we'll talk more about in just a minute. The next stage of awareness is most aware. These people know your product, they understand its value, and they are pretty much ready to sign up. They just need one little last push to purchase. They're sitting on the fence and they need that gentle, loving little shove, right, to go over the edge. So your messaging strategy for your most aware people, you want to focus on urgency, creating clear calls to action, and removing any last-minute hesitations. Consider objections they have and create solutions for those objections. This comes back to how well you know your human in the first place. What do they think will keep them from having success with your solution? Create that element as part of your product. For example, inside of the Work-Life Harmony Club, I've created a Simplify Your Marketing course, which will be in at the end of the month. It's full of great material. But I also know that course completion rates are extremely low across the online course industry. No matter what you're creating a course in, the chances that someone is going to dive in and do the whole thing start to finish is pretty low. So if someone is hesitant to sign up because they don't believe they'll actually take the time to do the work to finish the whole program, build a solution to that objection into your offer. In my example, I've added co-working sessions and we'll add accountability pods as the community grows that will be focused on specific lessons inside of the course. So that removes that objection. Another way to remove a last-minute hesitation is to consider your refund policy. If you are offering a product rather than a service, consider what a refund policy looks like. You can offer 30 days, 14 days, make sure it makes sense to you, and be very clear on what those things are. On your sales page for when people sign up. Options for ethical urgency. Urgency in itself is not inherently a bad thing. We're just using psychology to provide our solution to people, right? If you actually have a deadline or a cart close date, that is ethical urgency. They also have programs like deadline funnels. So if someone watches your webinar, you can set it up that you have 48 hours to make this decision with a timer, and 48 hours, this one-time offer is going away. That is also ethical, as long as you're upfront about all of that, okay? If you're not closing your cart, another way to create ethical urgency is to speak to what your customer will be missing out on if they don't sign up today. Consider the opportunity cost relative to the problem your product solves. What are they missing out on because they're putting off implementing your solution? And what are they sacrificing by not taking action? So that is ethical urgency. All right, I feel like that was a lot. Hopefully, it didn't feel too much like a fire hose. Good thing about podcasts is you can listen as many times as you want and pause and rewind and all the things, right? So, just to wrap up, different levels of customer awareness require different messaging approaches. So, when you are launching something, when you're creating a product, when you're creating marketing materials for your product or service, you need to understand how what you're creating applies to different levels of awareness. Look at your current marketing strategy and identify where your audience fits in terms of awareness. Are you speaking to all levels or are you really honed in on one? Having a handle on these levels of awareness can simplify your marketing and help you connect better with your audience. All right, my friend, that's all I have for you today. If you are enjoying the podcast, I would love it so much if you could hop on over to Apple and leave me a review. That helps more people find all the good stuff we've got here. Be well and be kind, and I will talk to you again soon.